going to a different economy, and we're going to be learning more about that as we go. But clearly, we're learning that things can be done from remote locations. We're learning that technology can replace people even more than we thought.
We're not going back to the same economy. We're recovering, but to a different economy, and it'll be one that is more leveraged to technology. And I worry that that is going to make it even more difficult than it was for many workers.
In Silicon Valley, and my friends who work in technology know that what we did to the manufacturing workers, we are now going to do to the retail workers, the call center workers, the fast food workers, the truck drivers, and then even bookkeepers, accountants, insurance agents, lawyers, and on through the economy. So what happened to the manufacturing workers is a very clear sign.
This effort. And China has big plans for this. They intend to seed their digital yuan into the global environment by giving it away to visitors at next winter's Olympics. When they arrive at the airport, they're going to get yuan digital wallets. They're going to receive digital yuan. They're going to use it throughout their visits to Beijing, and then they're going to take it back to their home countries. They see this as a huge advantage. Why? Because who controls the underlying protocols, who controls the underlying standards of the future of money will control the future of money.
Say Libra was something of lit a bit of a fire. This is something we've been focused on digital currencies for a couple decades. This is something we've been focused on digital currencies for a couple decades.
That I think central bank digital currencies were concocted in hell by Satan himself. They are incredible control by governments over everybody's bank account, and they are they're going to create a void of privacy for every individual citizen. I think they're horrible, but I think that's where they want to go.
Welcome back to the committee. When you last appeared before the I also asked you about an expected Fed report on digital currencies. You indicated that delays in releasing the report were because the Fed wanted to ensure that their analysis was correct and to complete, and that a release was expected in the coming weeks. However, that report still has not been released. Do you have an update you can share on the status of the report? And are there problems with sharing this report with Congress and the public and what the Fed may be proposing with respect to possibly centralizing public digital currency?
So the report really is ready to go, and I would expect we will drop it. I hate to say it again in coming weeks, but it really is in a situation where it's ready to go. The fall for us, given changes in monetary policy and other things going on, it was hard to we didn't get it quite to where we needed to get it, but it's effectively there now. And I will tell you, it's within weeks we will be publishing it. And by the way, it's more going to be an exercise in asking questions and seeking input from the public rather than taking a lot of positions on various issues, although we do take some positions.
Quick questions for you. One regarding a central bank digital currency. Some have advocated, as you know, that that a central bank digital dollar be used and developed in such a fashion that individual Americans have retail accounts with the Fed, and the Fed becomes the retail banker for America. It seems to me that there is absolutely nothing in the history, the experience, the expertise, the capabilities of the Fed that lend the Fed to being a retail bank. Is that a fair observation?
I would say it is, yes.
Thank you. A second, I know we're going to get our report soon, and I'm very much looking forward to this, as you and I have discussed. But I wonder if you could respond to this. If Congress were to authorize and the Fed were to pursue a central bank digital dollar, is there anything about that ought to preclude a well-regulated, privately issued stable coins from coexisting with a central bank digital dollar?
No, not at all.
Right. Thank you very much.
Next few weeks. My question, Mr. Chairman, is the FSOC recently designated climate change as an emerging threat to financial stability. Can you describe a sequence of climate-related events that would cause a financial crisis?
So It's a good question. The way there are two different kinds of risk, right? There's physical risk and then there's transition risk. So physical risk tends to be these risks in the form of extreme weather and that kind of thing, and they kind of accumulate over time gradually. And to have a financial stability disruption, something that actually threatens the financial system, it doesn't result from that kind of a process. So it doesn't seem likely in the near term that it would come from physical risk. So that means the real risk would be transition risk, and what that means is some surprising event would have to take place that destabilized the whole financial system and maybe caused a very large financial institution to fail in a disorderly way. And how would that happen? It conceivably could happen through government policy, or it could come through an event, some kind of a public event that really, not unlike the pandemic, only related to climate in some way. So those are the kinds of things. These are not things that we think about it will happen every day, but it's more a question of over time what can happen from climate.
So just a follow-up to that. This morning I was with Chairman Manchin of the Energy and Natural Resource Committee, which I serve on. We had a hearing on hydropower. And there is a movement afoot in this country to breach hydropower dams, to breach dams. We've already seen blackouts in the U.S. and other countries because of forced closures of reliable baseload energy. Whether it's been nuclear plants that have been shut down, coal plants have been shut down, they're talking about breaching dams.
Welcome to the Crypto Teacher. And guys, I come back with that video just to make you think. And we know that we had Jerome in the house, Fed Chairman Jerome Powell. We know the United States stablecoin, CBDC, whatever you want to call it, is right around the corner. You know I've done several videos on this. Now that we have Senator Toomey says the people will have banks directly with the Fed. Doesn't that sound crazy? Yes, it do, but it's coming. And guys, what did they bring up in this? That's right, the big event. They said it right out their own mouth, the big event. The climate change agenda. Rolling blackouts. Guys, get your friends and family educated and get them prepared. It's all about preparation, people. And we know all the issues that are happening right now came from the New World Order, the central banks. What did they do? That's right, they printed all this money. The United States World Reserve currency, they printed all of it to actually kill it. But what is it doing? It's causing inflation. The supply chain, who's causing that? That's right, the New World Order. All these people out of work, who's causing that? The New World Order. Problem, reaction, solution. And what do we see in this meeting? The Hegelian dialectic. It works every time. They created the problem. All these people out of work, printed all this money, which automatically will cause inflation. We know this, people. Yes, you might have higher wages, but what's happening? Your dollar is getting eaten away. It's nothing but a game to them because they control the supply and demand. And then what do we know the solution is? That's right. Central bank digital currencies, whether Dragon, the digital yuan is going to rise, backed by that digital SDR. The United States is going to lose that world reserve currency. But then also, guys, we know the robots, algorithms, and drones are going to take over this economy, while the sheep go inside the metaverse. And remember, the Crypto Teacher told you, because he knows. When it comes to the New World Order, it's all planned out. Y'all have a wonderful day.
Do you think that rolling blackouts due to a lack of stable baseload power poses a more tangible and real near-term threat to the stability of the financial system?
I have to think about that. I will say that to have a successful, if you're someone who wants to see a transition away from carbon-based energy, we're going to need a lot of energy to facilitate that transition, and I think that means we need to be honest about having to rely on more traditional kinds of power.
Yeah, what's mind-boggling to me, and this will be my last comment, Mr. Chairman, and I'll finish, but what's mind-boggling means we have sources of energy that do not emit carbon, like nuclear, like hydropower. And yet we see these ideological movements that are seeking to shut down nuclear plants, shut down hydropower in some cases, which I think pose a significant risk to the stability of the grid as well as to our financial system. Mr. Chairman, thank you.
It would hasten the collapse of the banking system. We now know that's clearly empirically false. After the pandemic caused the economy to nearly collapse, our country emerged with the most well-capitalized banks in history. Gains just made, which I think is extremely important, and I don't think we made it until he made that point, which is that every month that goes by in which inflation in the form of consumer prices is growing faster than wages are gaining is a month in which workers are falling behind. There have been some comment about wage gains. I think we'd all like to see wage gains, but wage gains that are more than wiped out by price increases do not leave a family better off. And so it is not a contradiction. It is not somehow contrary to the interest of a working family to get price stability. In fact, it's necessary for the well-being of the working families of Pennsylvania and America that we bring about price stability.
So the way I would look at it is this. What we have now is a mismatch between demand and supply. We have very strong demand in areas where supply is constrained, particularly around goods, particularly around things like cars. So we have to, how are those two things going to get into better into alignment? Well, part of the answer is going to be through shifts in demand, and we think that part of it will be through the return of greater supply. So I don't think we look to get all of the realignment between demand and supply through the demand channel, although we should get some. But at the same time, we do think we'll get over the course of this year return to normal supply conditions, and that's going to affect our policy. I will say though, if we see inflation persisting at high levels longer than expected, then we will, if we have to raise interest rates more over time, we will. We will use our tools to get inflation back, and the main reason is this. That to get the kind of very strong labor market we want with high participation, it's going to take a long expansion. We can see that participation is moving only very slowly, and to get a long expansion, we're going to need price stability. And so, in a way, high inflation is a severe threat to the achievement of maximum employment and to achieving a long expansion that can give us that.
I think that's a very important point. Let me also just ask you, as I mentioned, I understood the need for quantitative easing, the extraordinary measures that we're taking during the crisis, but I worry that the Fed's decision to continue to use these policies well after the crisis had passed, and in fact we're in the midst of a strong recovery, increases the risk of normalizing behavior like despond buying. So I think it's your view that it's important that this not become normal routine part of Fed behavior. But could you clarify that? And if it is important that this not become a routine matter, how do we ensure that it doesn't?
So I guess I would start by saying that the last two downturns there's been nothing normal about them. They've been two historically large downturns, one being the global financial crisis and one being the pandemic, and we were called to invent new tools and use all of our tools. If we had a regular way recession, a couple of quarters of negative growth, a typical recession, then the question would be, what do we need to do? And so in this era of very low interest rates, there's not going to be as much room to cut, but that would be the first thing that we would do. Now, just because we have been and probably remain in an era of very low interest rates, we would have to look at asset purchases as the next tool in line, but I don't think we'd automatically use it unless it was necessary.
The most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation to come. Steve Jobs. And guys, I truly believe in this. When you look at the New World Order, they're the storytellers. And that's the reason why I wrote my New World Order book. But guys, now it's time to change the current generation. And I wrote 3 kids books. You know, I love the Trinity because I understand the power that's in it. So I have 3 books. We have an opportunity to change the generation, to educate, not just me, but I want to show you that I take action on a daily basis. And I want you to take action on a daily basis. Whether it's your job, whether it's in your community, we have an opportunity right now to educate the masses. I posted this on my Twitter account. Please share, but this is a short clip of the 3 books. There's going to be a clothing line and action figures. Please get these books for your kids, nephews, cousins, friends, so therefore we can start the re-education now. Because as we see, the 4th Industrial Revolution foundation is definitely here. Robots, algorithms, drones, taking humanity out the picture. We have to re-educate. But let's get into the video.
Part 1. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save the village. Part 2. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save New York from COVID 33. Part 3. King Joshua and Grandma Tam goes to China.
It's mandatory to get part 1, part 2, and part 3 of this series. It's time to re-educate Generation Z.